You've probably heard that Roth conversions can help lower your lifetime tax bill. But when should you actually do one? And how do you know if it's the right move for you? That's what today's video is all about. Welcome back. And if we haven't met, I'm Keith Demetriades, a financial advisor based here in Pampa, Texas. There's a stretch of time in retirement, a window, that can offer some of the best tax opportunities you'll ever get. But most people are not aware of how to find and use that window to their best advantage. What really matters here is timing, how much you move each year, and the consequences of putting it off too long, because those decisions can shape your tax picture for decades. If you want to see how this might play out for you, grab the free guide. I've linked it in the description. It's called Find Your Roth Window and gives you a simple way to test some numbers and see where this fits into your overall plan. Let's start with timing because it's pretty critical. When should you actually do a Roth conversion? The best time usually falls in the years after you stop working, but before RMDs kick in. That's often your early to mid 60s. It's a phase that doesn't get enough attention. You're not earning a paycheck anymore, but you haven't started taking Social Security or IRA withdrawals yet. That's why this window matters. Your income is likely lower during that stretch. And with no job income, you have more control over how much taxable income shows up on your tax return. Think about it like this. During your working years, your income is pretty predictable and your bracket is mostly locked in. But once you retire, there's a short window where you get to decide how much taxable income to report. That means if your only income is from a small pension or dividends, you might be sitting in a much lower bracket than before. And that's your cue. That's when conversions can be most effective. And thanks to the Secure Act, you've now got a little more time to work with. RMDs don't begin until age 73, which means you've got a longer window to convert IRA dollars while your taxable income is relatively low. The challenge is that this opportunity doesn't call attention to itself. There's no alert that pops up saying, hey, now would be a great time to do a Roth conversion. You have to be proactive and run the numbers because waiting until RMDs start isn't always the best plan. Let me give you an example. I met with a couple not long ago who were in their early 60s, recently retired, and holding off on Social Security. Most of their savings were in traditional IRAs, and their income for the year was surprisingly low without a paycheck coming in. That dip opened a door they didn't even know to look for. Like a lot of people, they assumed the smartest move was to hold off on withdrawals as long as possible. But when we ran the numbers, they had nearly $40,000 of space before hitting the next tax bracket. That created a solid opportunity to shift some of those IRA dollars into a Roth. But it would have been easy to miss without a little planning. Once you've got the timing in mind, the next thing to think about is how much to move over each year. This is where people sometimes get overwhelmed. And I get it. There's something a little uncomfortable about voluntarily triggering taxes. Hit that like button if you agree. But if you understand the brackets, it feels less like a penalty and more like a planning decision. Here's a useful rule of thumb. Look at your current tax bracket and see how much room you have before you jump into the next one. For example, if you're married and filing jointly, the 12% bracket goes up to about $94,000 in taxable income. So let's say your income is sitting around $70K. That gives you roughly $24,000 of headroom where you can do a Roth conversion and still stay within the same tax bracket. Now, should you push right up to the limit every year? Not necessarily. It depends on your other income sources, your cash flow, and your long-term goals. But it's a helpful framework because it gives you a way to approach the decision with some structure. And for context, I've worked with people who only converted $5,000 or $10,000 a year, but they did it consistently. Over time, that chipped away at their traditional IRA balance and gave them a lot more flexibility when RMDs started. Keep in mind, Roth conversions are permanent. So once you convert, there's no undoing it. But that doesn't mean you have to avoid making a move. You can just convert smaller amounts each year and evaluate as you go. Remember, the goal isn't to avoid taxes. It's to pay them at a rate that works in your favor. Now let's talk about the risk of holding off. What happens if you wait too long and miss that Roth conversion window? Once required minimum distributions begin at age 73, you have less control over how and when you recognize income. At that point, the IRS tells you what you have to withdraw from your traditional accounts. And that amount shows up on your tax return, whether you need it or you don't. That can make it harder to do Roth conversions efficiently. You may still be able to convert, but it'll stack on top of your existing income. That could push you into a higher bracket or affect things like Medicare premiums and Social Security taxation. I've had new clients tell me, I wish I had looked at this 5 years ago, back when I had more options. It's a tough feeling to sit with, especially when the opportunity was there, just not visible without the planning. That's why acting earlier when your income is lower and more predictable can be such a valuable opportunity. It gives you room to make choices, stay within comfortable tax brackets, and use your accounts more intentionally. Have you looked at your Roth conversion window yet? Or is that still something you're sorting out? Drop a comment and let me know. I'd like to hear how you're thinking about it. Remember, you don't have to commit to a full conversion strategy all at once. Even small moves now can give you more control in the future. I'm Keith Demetriades. Thanks for joining me today. If you found this video valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to get more information on retirement income, tax planning, and making smarter financial decisions. Be a savvy steward. Make your life count.